Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the In the Paint Show, episode 144. Back at it with my co-hosts Chelsea, Hopkins, and Ani Umana. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well, Ronnie. How are you?
I'm doing good. We've been off a little bit. Obviously, we did the Fab 50 preseason show. We appreciate everybody who logged in, watched it, rewatched the replay. Again, you could always watch the replay. We're not really started all the way across the country, so there's still a lot of good information out there. We're getting started. We're getting going, Ani. I know you've been to a few games. What's the early take, Ani? In high school realm, it's still kind of early, but there's going to be some good games coming up here really quick, and just kind of like your feedback on the early part of the season.
Yeah, I think early on teams are still trying to build chemistry and just kind of get a flow of things with their head coach coaching, because over here in Texas, the head coach can't coach these fall league games.
Sure.
And I think these players, they're just trying to get into a rhythm. I saw a lot of sloppy like passes, shot selection, guys in the rhythm where they're going to be probably 2-3 weeks from now is going to look completely different than what I'm seeing now.
Sure. Yeah. Just to give an update on that, obviously our preseason number 18, Duncanville, the defending champs, we talked about them in the asterisk, but Ani, talk about their decision to drop out of the UIL playoffs, which, when we talked on the show a few weeks ago, we kind of mentioned how, hey, they're still going to play a good schedule. We talked about high school basketball growing in national stature, and Duncanville's just kind of taking that like, hey, let's go play the best teams we can and not worry about the playoffs, which, what does it mean? What does it mean to the fans there? What does it mean to the people involved in basketball in Texas?
Yeah, so the superintendent decided to forego the playoffs this year. I know there was a meeting. I think today is going to be the district meeting where they're going to decide on that. And
wow.
The superintendent decided early that they're just going to forego the playoffs. I think just so, hopefully UIL doesn't really punish them going on next year. Obviously, there's a mixed reviews on that. You got parents, players that were upset about that. You got some other people that understood, but they're going to forego the playoffs. And my next question is, what does that look like for district? You're hearing some teams say, okay, if it doesn't count towards their district record, then we're just going to play our freshmen.
Yeah.
We're just going to play our freshmen against them so they don't get hurt. So then when you're Duncanville, let's say that's going on, how many district games do you play? They let you play district games.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting because some of these teams just flat out just will probably put their JV in or do whatever.
Yeah. Is that kind of like, do you think that's more of an insult to the UIL or an insult to Duncanville? What are you dodging? Don't you want to, if I'm a team, I want to beat them, right? Or
yeah, I mean, you would want to beat them.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like, look, you're playing a top 10 team in the country, right? Yeah. You got 2 chances at that.
Correct.
For me personally, I would play both.
Yeah.
Or at least play one. Like get all set up. Like if you're going, for me, I would say, okay, come to my home court and I'll play you. But seriously, I think it's kind of an insult to Duncanville a little bit.
Okay.
You're not going to play your guys against them. Yeah. But it is such a tricky situation because I understand guys are going to get ready for the playoffs with their guys healthy going to the state. But I think your guys are going to be most ready going against a team like Duncanville. When you talk about the grind.
Correct. That's how you're going to get ready for the playoffs. What do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of what Ani said too. Like, I think the superintendent in general was just trying to get ahead of it. Based off of what Ani just said, I kind of can assume that there was going to be some type of punishment. So, hopefully kind of imposing a punishment on yourselves can kind of lessen it, later on. But I do think it's unfortunate because Duncanville's so talented. We talked about them in our Fab 50 show. To have a team of this caliber, not competing in certain things, it definitely changes the landscape a little bit for high schools. And we talked so much about just, these other teams wanting to play a team of that caliber. And now they, may or may not have that chance depending on, the official word. So it sucks.
Yeah, it's a little odd, but I mentioned in the preseason show that they're still going to be ranked, obviously, and still it's just for them. They're not going to have the benefit of the playoffs to move up or beat another good team. So when their last district game is, they're just going to kind of be stuck there. they'll be, you know, whatever they are, 26-1 or whatever, you know, 25-2. And then everybody else is getting better competition, deeper. They're just going to be sitting there. So it is going to affect their ranking a bit, but it's happened before. I'll give you one time this happened before. Was Westchester, LA Westchester. They won 2 state titles with Trevor Ariza and Brandon Bowman and Hassan Adams and those guys. And then they got a couple transfers, and those transfers were redeemed, like, you know, to be, you know, illegal or, you know, indictment or whatever word you want to use. So they kicked them out of the playoffs that year. And obviously Westchester was in the same league as Fairfax. It's like 2 of the best teams in the country. And Fairfax went on to win the Division I state title, the top title, but they lost to Westchester twice in league. Even though Westchester didn't have those 2 players, it was Amir Johnson, who played it later in the Toronto Raptors, and another highly regarded player. But they still had Gabe Pruitt and some good players, and they still were the best team in the state. So that year, Westchester was still the best team in the state, even though they didn't play in the playoffs. Just so happens they played in the same league as Fairfax, and Fairfax is really good too. So, I mean, I'm not sure who's Duncanville's best district opponent, Ani? One good opponent.
I think Waxahachie. I think Waxahachie. Yeah.
Okay, so it'd be like them going on to win the state title.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
you know?
asterisk title, basically.
Yeah, because Westchester has a banner up in their gym based on our like #1 team in the state. It's kind of like a shot to everybody else. Like, hey, we were still the best team, even though they didn't have Amir Johnson, who ended up going straight from high school to the NBA. So, yeah, that's a very interesting story. We'll keep on it, but it's unfortunate a little bit. Like you said, Chelsea, it's more like, I think the players, I thought I saw Eric Damian saying like, hey, man, we didn't get no say in this. Like, you know, it's more about the players, as you said, Chelsea. So we'll move on. There's been so much stuff that's happened. I guess we'd be remiss not to mention that University of Virginia football players killed 3 guys. You know, it's this unbelievable story that happened over the weekend or going into Monday. 3 Cavalier football players: junior receiver Lavelle Davis, junior receiver Devin Chandler, and junior defensive end linebacker Deshaun Perry. Just want to shout those guys out. I don't know much more about the situation. Obviously, it's developing. Did you guys hear anything or follow that a bit?
I was literally about to ask if you guys knew anything about the motive. You know, I've been seeing it on social media. I know it was a former football player, so not that somebody that was currently on the roster, but somebody that, you know, had played for the program previously. But I couldn't find anything as to why he did this, you know, and it's so unfortunate and tragic. I can't really imagine, you know, why something like this would happen. But, you know, this is like a regular thing, Ronnie. We've talked previously on pods about just, you know, this type of stuff happening all the time, us kind of being desensitized to it because, you know, next week, you know, our next podcast, we could be talking about something else, unfortunately. So sad story, but I really don't know much about it from besides what you said.
Right. Yeah, right. It's just wild. Like, I'm just thinking of the motive. When I saw it was a former player on the team and then three players died, I'm just like, you know, where did this come from? You know, that's where I was just in disbelief, you know, just like a former player killing basically 3 of your former teammates.
Yeah. It's the only thing I could relate it to is the Patrick Dehaney situation at Baylor about 15 or 18 years ago with Dave Bliss and those guys. That was a wild story when it came out. Like, we didn't even process it. I remember when it came out, I was like, what happened? And I knew one of the players was from Northern California, so involved, and it didn't make a lot of sense, and it was so sad, and it led to an unraveling of all kind of things that were going on there at Baylor. Ani, I don't know if you recall that when you were in middle school or whatnot, and all the things that happened with their sanctions. So you just don't know. When I think of University of Virginia, I've been there a few times to a couple football camps and a couple basketball events, and the people are just so nice. It's just a nice part of the country, like where people are, you know, people have a reputation for being rude or they're just moving real fast with their day. They don't stop. Like, people in Virginia and that part of Virginia, at least Charlottesville, they're known for being nice. You know, it's so you don't like, wow, at Virginia, you know, and it's a huge school, huge, you know, it's like its own city, probably like 60,000 people in and around the school at any time, you know, so you just don't know. You just never know what could happen. And it's funny when you go to like I told you guys when we've talked about Oak Hill of being up in the hills. When you wind down and you go to like the gas stations and stuff, there's all these bumper stickers and all these like little slogans like Virginia's for lovers, say hi to. It's supposed to be like a nice, friendly place,
Yeah.
and it's just like this stuff can just happen anywhere, you know. So you know, we send our condolences to the families and everybody who is, you know, who is affected by this. Lavelle was from Dorchester, South Carolina. Devin was from Huntersville, North Carolina, and Deshaun Perry was from Miami. So just to get that news, not like they're local kids, just to get that news back home must just be like tragedy, you know. So as Chelsea said, we can't spend much time on it because there's not that much. First of all, we don't have to have that much information, but second of all, it's like we don't have much solution, so we just keep moving on. So so much stuff has happened in basketball. You know, Chelsea, what's the thing that you've kind of like noticed in the last couple of weeks? There's so much things, whether it's NBA, college, we got the WNBA draft lotto, we got college starting, high school starting. Like, what thing has caught your eye?
Well, you know, I definitely have to touch on WNBA because that's just what I do. First, I would be remiss to not, you know, kind of comment on the Brittney Griner situation.
Sure.
You know, going on February makes a year. So we're a couple months out of her being detained. The most recent update is that she was moved to a penal colony in Russia, and her lawyers don't know her whereabouts. Like, they basically moved her, didn't really say exactly where they moved her. I've been doing research on these penal colonies, and they are basically just doing hard labor for like 20 hours, you know, out of the day.
Sure.
With very little rest. Like, I'm not so sure about the conditions, but I'm sure they're not great. I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, you know, to me, I just feel kind of stuck because, you know, we've heard information about a prisoner swap and, you know, kind of what Russia was asking for. And from, you know, our side, it seems like the U.S. is willing to do it for her and Paul Whelan. And now it's like that they said that they would do it. Now they're not doing it. So yeah. I get more, you know, terrified as days go by because I really feel like she might be there for some time. You know, God willing, it won't be for their whole 9-year sentence, but it's like, okay, I said you wanted this. We said we'll give you that, but why is she still there if that was all it took, you know? So always just keeping her lifted and in prayer that, you know, this will come to an end soon. But if I speak honestly from the heart, I don't really know what's a reasonable timeline for her to come home.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ani, would you kind of feel the same sentence, or do you think like it's always been a political thing and it's like we didn't really have much control and that's what Russia wanted us to like embarrass us as a country in essence, like we're at their mercy basically?
No, I really just think, you know, this situation is showing you how much governments don't care about the people. You know, at the end of the day, they don't really care. You know, she should not. If it's a prisoner swap to get her, it should have been done.
Yeah.
You don't keep her there for over a year. Now she done moved. Her lawyers don't know where she at, and you tell me that you actually care for her well-being. You see what I'm saying? And it ain't been done yet. So I think it just kind of showed, like, I'm not saying like no one in the government cares about us, but it's like, it's minuscule. It's more limited than what we think. You know,
correct.
And I think too, at the same time, like, you know, just talking about the prisoner swap, I don't think Russia thought we would do it. And now that it came out that we would do it, they're like, oh, wait a minute. You know, that's not all. Like, we need more. We're going to keep her until, you know, we need something else now. Because it really just doesn't make any sense for her not to be back home. So I agree that definitely political, definitely just kind of holding her because they can. And, you know, I don't know when the situation will be rectified, but
like just 5 years from now, there's going to be more details coming out, and the stuff we're going to find out 5 years from now is going to be disgusting. You know, like that's how I feel. Like over time, we're going to see everything, and we're going to be like, oh wow, like
that makes a lot of sense. For me, it would be like when obviously her partner is going to say something, she's going to come out on a talk show or come out and make a statement or come out on 2020 or something like that because it's a big story. Right. And but the way I look at it from the government, I would have said, this is just me, if I was in the government, I'd have been like, it's a national security issue. We can't say too much about it. Because when you start talking about, well, we're willing to do the swap, you give people hope and then the hope's gone. You know what I mean? Like, I would have just said, it's a national security issue. We're working on it diligently, period. That's it. Because anything more than that, you're giving young people hope. You're giving her family hope. And it's really, I kind of knew it without saying it on this pod, but I'll say it now because of where she's at. I knew it wasn't much hope. Like, back then, 4 months ago, I was like, she's not going to get out because they're just dangling, like you said, okay, well, we want this. Well, no, we want a little more. Yeah, no, we want something else. They can just keep doing that, and it makes us look weak in essence. And I think that's one of the things they want us to do. And it's a wartime, so I hope people understand how serious it is for everybody involved. And it's unfortunate, and we just hope that she's going to be affected. Obviously, it's going to affect the rest of her life. But we hope it's just like she still is able to be productive in everything she wants to do whenever this ends, whether it's 6 months from now or unfortunately 9 years from now, that she's okay. You know what I mean? Long term, that's what you got to look at, because if the lawyers don't have no idea where she's at, they're not, nobody's in control but the Russian government.
Right.
You know, absolutely. It's the rest of it's just perspective. It's just speculation.
That's true. And the WNBA, they're trying to do their part to keep her name alive. Yeah. And unfortunately, kind of the show must go on with them. This week they recently had the WNBA draft lottery. Yeah. Indiana Fever ended up with the #1 pick, which is interesting because Indiana Fever has been like the worst team in the WNBA for like the last 5 seasons. Yeah. But interestingly enough, they've only had in the last 5 drafts a 10% chance of actually getting the #1 pick. Wow. So they've had the 2nd pick twice, they've had the 3rd pick twice, and then the 4th pick once. And then finally this year they were able to land the #1 pick. Atlanta comes in with the 2nd pick, Washington with the 3rd, and Minnesota with the 4th. And pretty much that's the lineup that we're going to see for this upcoming 2023 season. And it's very much so, just for our followers who may not be super familiar with the WNBA, it pretty much operates just like the NBA draft. Sure. The lesser teams in the league have a higher percentage of, their lottery chances in getting a top pick. The difference between basically the NBA and the WNBA is it's a much smaller draft. It's usually about 30 players. Realistically, 10 to 12 each draft class actually make a team. And yeah, and that's kind of, how it works. A lot of people get drafted and aren't able to stick because there's just not enough spots. So that's kind of how it works. So the way it is this season, we have Aaliyah Boston, the center from South Carolina. She's going to be the projected #1 pick. If she goes to Indiana, she will join her former teammate, point guard Destiny Henderson. And they will be, kind of back paired again. They won a national championship last year with South Carolina together. So it'll be nice to see them reunite. Indiana's kind of under new management. Tamika Catchings was the GM a season and a half ago. Now they're back with Lynn Dunn. They're trying to kind of bring Indiana back. They haven't won a championship since, I think it was 2013. And they're kind of just trying to remain competitive instead of being at the bottom of the league every season. So we're going to see kind of how that plays out. And that's just an update with, what we got WNBA stuff going on. For the rest of the kind of discussion around WNBA is their prioritization rule. So I'm not sure if you and Ani heard about this, but the WNBA is basically trying to implement these rules where players cannot miss training camp, like being overseas and potentially missing the season. Yeah, so it's a really big deal. I don't know if it went into effect yet because it's obviously something that they're discussing in the collective bargaining agreement. But basically what they're saying now is, hey, we're trying to get more money. We don't want you guys being late or basically being overseas. So I think that is something that we are going to hear about in the coming months and see how it's going to affect the season this year. I mean, a lot of people make a lot of money, overseas, and are they willing to forego that to, if I'm not a max player, I'm making, anywhere from 65,000 to 200,000. That's the range for, non-max players. Max players are about 220,000. So am I willing to forego maybe the, 250,000 that I make in France or, some of these other countries that I'm playing in? So I think we should look out for that, guys. That's what's going to be kind of coming up in talks for the next couple months.
So my quick reaction to that, Chelsea, would be, do WNBA players ever hold out? What's the difference between being overseas and holding out? Or do they hold out ever? For like, hey,
I mean,
no.
they've never had to, Ronnie. Like, you know, it was always understood that with the WNBA, we have to be a summer league. Our premier players are playing in the fall, in the winter, and into the spring in these other countries, and they're making a whole bunch of money. Like we just talked about Brittney Griner, she was making $1 million in Russia. Yeah. What could the Phoenix Mercury say to get Brittney Griner to stay when I make $1 million before taxes? Yeah. So that's what makes it interesting is like I want to see what some of these premier players are doing. I know some of these overseas leagues may adjust, but I don't think that they should. Like, why do we need to adjust when we're paying all the money? The WNBA is paying you pennies. Like, you know, that is going to be very interesting to see kind of how it plays out. And I'm interested to see if some of the big names are willing to, you know, kind of forego overseas people that have been playing there consistently. Yeah. We see the Aces. The Aces don't really have any players. Chelsea Gray was signed to go overseas after the break. I'm not sure if she's going to go. But, like, you know, their players are taking a break. Like, Asia doesn't play overseas. Kelsey Plum played in Turkey the last couple of years, but she hasn't played overseas the last season, and she's not going this year because she had a small procedure. You know, Jackie Young was playing in Australia. That league ends early, so she could do both. But there's a lot of players that just make a lot of money. So I'm very, very curious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's an interesting, you know, like an interesting development that, again, we talk about hurting the average fan. Now, if you're a hardcore WNBA fan, you're going to be one. But like you said, for the average fan, it's like, well, what does that mean? I would just think if I was a girl and I had the leverage, I would just sit out anyway. Okay, I'm not going to be overseas. I'm going to sit out till training camps at the end. I'm still going to come late. What are you going to do? I'm the best player you got. You know, maybe
but if you're the best player, you can do that. Like, I don't see Brianna Stewart's not overseas yet, but she did sign to Fenerbahce in Turkey. A lot of the WNBA players have foregone the Russian league, as they should. So a lot of them, you know, want to come after break, get a couple months in before the WNBA season. So, you know, Brianna Stewart is supposed to end up in Turkey, but she's not there till this point. And she's borderline between her and Asia Wilson, the face of the league. So what are they going to say if she says, no, I'm going to stay and collect my check? Then they might say, wait, hold on. The rule doesn't go till next year. I don't know what they're going to do. But like I said, it just depends on who you are. If you're a 10th man on anybody's roster or barely hanging on to the WNBA, then, you know, they don't care, basically.
Wow. Very interesting. So my question to follow up on the draft and that would be, you know, we talk about franchise players, and we'll get into the NBA a little bit and talk about the rookies, but and we'll talk about the top recruits. We talked about Tamika Catchings. She's from your neck of the woods, Ani. She went to Duncanville for a while, and she went to Jalen Brunson's high school. I think her and her sister Tawa went to Lincolnshire in Illinois, so they were going back and forth. But when they transferred from one to the other, I thought of that when she said Duncanville and Tamika Catchings, and obviously she was like a franchise high school player, right? And obviously a great player. But so how does that work, Chelsea? Like, just depends. Does every year have impact, like top players who are going to be all-stars, or is it just because it's a lesser crop of teams and a lesser crop of players? It just depends where they go and fit. It's more fit, or like the top 2 or 3 players are always pretty good and start, or no? Is it a mixed bag all the time? We've heard about players getting cut right away in the last few years. We've talked about it on this pod, but how does it work with like the very elite and then the middle pack and then the girls who don't get drafted?
Okay, so we're seeing kind of a trend in the WNBA right now where those, and I want to talk about money because that's kind of basically what it all boils down to. There's so many roster spots. Most teams carry 11. You can carry 12, but most teams are carrying 11 because it's a money thing. So we're seeing a trend where these WNBA vets, I'm talking about people that have been in the league for 7, 8, 9 years that aren't on rookie salaries anymore, aren't max players. They're kind of in that middle, you know, 150,000, 140,000, 180,000 range where they're kind of getting bounced out the league. There's no place for them. You know, a lot of these teams have 3 max players, and then the rest of the roster is kind of generated and built on the salary cap and who you can afford. If I'm the Aces, I have Asia Wilson as my franchise player locked in. I have Kelsey Plum locked in. I have Jackie Young locked in, and I have Chelsea Gray locked in, and also Dearica Hamby, who was 6th Woman of the Year and also an All-Star. So their core is already set, and that's all the money. So, okay, now we have maybe like $100,000 or, you know, $200,000 left to work with to fill the last, you know, 5 spots on the team. So we have to take rookie at $60K, rookie at $60K, mid-level player that doesn't really require vets minimum, because after you play a certain amount of years, there's vets minimum, which is 90. Correct. So how many vet minimum players can I take if I already have all these people locked in? I have to make the numbers fit. And that's how sometimes rookies end up, you know, either being on the roster or just barely hanging on. It's usually a money thing. Like we kind of saw with Indiana this past season that they kept, you know, 6 rookies, which is unprecedented for any team in the WNBA. And also they finished dead last. So that doesn't work.
No, but they're saving money. They're not paying that $90K to the veterans.
Okay, they're saving money, but they won, you know, 11 games on the season.
Yeah,
you know. So not even 11 games. It was probably like 6, to be honest. I can't remember the exact record. But so needless to say, like, you know, it's not even so much about the elite players are going to be there, to answer your question. The elite players locked in, they're going to be there. They're going to get their money. The rest of the roster is going to be basically generated on what income is left and how they can make the numbers fit. Usually most teams will have at least 1 rookie because they're cheap. But, you know, sometimes you see it where teams don't have a rookie at all. It's really crazy, but it's not really a talent thing to me. I think there's a lot of reputable players, especially overseas, that can provide more than maybe a WNBA rookie or a WNBA second player. They have this overseas experience. They're playing in the EuroLeague. They're playing against all these top WNBA girls, you know, but they can't get in because of money or for whatever reason. You know, Ronnie, me and you talk a lot about Rebecca Gardner, my close friend and, you know, California native, and how at 30, she turned 32 this year while she was actually in season with Chicago Sky. She's a 32-year-old rookie. and she was found basically playing overseas in Spain. She's playing in the EuroLeague. She's playing against Kalia Copper, who was the former finals MVP, not this past season, but the season before. So she ended up making the roster. And even then, at 32 years old, Ronnie, she's making $60K. She's considered a rookie.
She's a rookie.
So they were able to put her on the team, and she provided, you know, she provided way more
veteran leadership.
Than a rookie could, because she's been playing overseas for 10 years. But she also only made the roster because she was a rookie. If she would have been a vet, they would have said, yeah, you're good, but $95K, we can't afford you.
Can't afford you. Wow.
So, Chels, talking about Indiana, you know, you said the last 5 seasons, they've been the worst team, right? But they've been having like this first year with top pick, but like you having top 3 picks for the last 5 years, basically. Like, why are they so bad?
Are they just drafting bad, or are they?
Yeah, and yes, very bad. You know, in terms of selection. You know, Tamika Catchings, bless her heart, incredible player, franchise high school player, franchise WNBA player. MVP, champion, whatever you want to call it. But front office, no. Like, it wasn't given. She was, you know, drafted these people, couldn't stick, couldn't help the team. It was really just a mess. So they had these top picks, and it just wasn't translating, really. And they weren't drafting, to me, like, people that, you know, fit needs. Like, in my opinion, like, I know sometimes you want to draft the best available player, but if your team is already guard heavy, you need to take the best post. You need to take the best, forward or whatever. And they just didn't really do a good job of that. So the last year's draft, when they got Destiny Henderson at point guard, she was very solid. They had Emily, who was a player that played for Louisville. She was very solid. Their rookies did well. You know, they had too many, which is why they didn't win, but they're trending in the right direction. So I think this year they're going to get Aaliyah Boston. I think there's not really anything that she can do to not be the number 1 pick. She's just that dominant for South Carolina, pretty much walking double-double. You know, good hands, good everything, good size. I think her game translates, and I think it's undisputed that she'll go number one, and she should be able to, you know, put Indiana on track. But in my opinion, you still need those veteran players. You still need those people that can guide you and that have that experience. And that's kind of what Indiana has been lacking the last couple seasons.
Makes a lot of sense. Obviously, we talk about the elite players. I think we're going to talk about some of these big time commitments, and I think the top player in the country, JuJu Watkins from Sierra Canyon, I believe she's going to commit today if she hasn't already.
JuJu Watkins, 6 foot guard, gonna make her college decision. Obviously, South Carolina's in the mix. I know USC is also there, but she's the number one pick. It's undisputed. She's very talented. I don't know if people have seen her highlights, but can pretty much do everything. And everybody's kind of just been waiting for her to come off the board. A lot of the top recruits already have done so. And South Carolina so far has like the number one recruiting class. So when they add her, like it's just going to be adding more, you know, fuel to the fire. I basically see South Carolina as the new powerhouse. We saw UConn go on that run of several seasons, number one, you know, recruiting class translating to multiple titles. South Carolina is on their way. They won last year. They're the favorites to win this year. They're going to have the top recruiting class, probably without JuJu, but I think she's going to lean that way. And it'll be interesting to see what happens today. Yeah,
we'll probably hear about it before we get off this pod. We're probably about halfway through this one. It should probably be announced by the time we get on. We'll backtrack to it once we hear about it. But yeah, you know, when I see here, you know, I'm like talking about the best players ever, or one of the best high school players ever, and you know me, Chelsea, I popped my collar about the California girls. We're actually much better in the girls than we are in the guys, even though we have a lot of good guys. We're much better in the girls. I don't think the other 49 states could even combine and beat us. It just wouldn't. You know, it's just, maybe Ani, you probably would be like, I don't know, let me think about it. But just too many. I don't know why it is especially at the beginning years, like we're just dominated. But over the years that you followed as a fan, does that like top girl or the number one recruiting class always? Do you kind of recall? And I don't know, you're not following it on a day by day basis, but does that top girl usually get, you know, an NCAA championship? Or is it just a mixed bag like the boys? Because you would think the top girl makes a huge difference, but again, they stay a lot longer, so they have more opportunity where the guys kind of have to produce that first year, especially in the last 20 years.
Well, I think now there's a lot more like parity in the women's game. You know, we saw for so long top recruit going to UConn, top recruit going to Tennessee, UConn, Notre Dame. You can count like on one hand, like the schools that all the top recruits are going to. But now people are kind of moving around. You see it like in the men's game. Like the men's game, you can really go anywhere. If you're NBA, the NBA will find you. Sure. You know, I don't think the WNBA does that good of a job of like kind of, you know, moving around to see where people are. But you're definitely seeing these girls kind of spread their wings and feel like they can win a championship in more than just, you know, 5 places. So, you know, obviously JuJu is probably going to end up at, you know, one of these high profile top schools. But we've seen other people, you know, kind of take the road less traveled. You know, I think of Caitlin Clark at Iowa, who is in her own right, maybe going to be a number 1 pick. She'll be a top 3 pick for sure. You know, she decided to stay home and she's over there killing it, you know, and we're just seeing more of these teams come along because they're able to get these recruits. And that's something that I feel like over the last decade wasn't really happening as much, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah. Ani, what do you have any thoughts about that? Did you follow that like Pat Summitt and Gino's recruiting wars a little bit, or was it more like you just wait to see what happens? You figure they'll be in the Final Four.
Yeah, I always kind of figured they'd be in the Final Four, but like when I would watch the tournament, you would say this girl was top 3 or number 1 in her class. Like most of them always had like a top 3 to 5 girl in their class, in the class, that respective class, or multiple. Some of them have like 2 or 3 of the top 10, you know, depending on their recruiting class. But most of the time when I would watch and then see, oh, this girl was ranked number 1 or she was ranked 3, or it's like, you know, and they would have multiple. So it's like, it makes sense why, you know, they're in the Final Four, they win it.
Yeah, no doubt. I see that a little bit. I guess the recruit that kind of changed that or changed the guard to me was when Maya chose UConn over Tennessee. Was like Tennessee knew they were never going to recover. All of us knew, like, Tennessee's never going to be the same Tennessee. Once Maya went to UConn, it's like they just took off. They already had Diana, but, like, once they got Maya, it's like, okay, this program is not going to let up.
Right.
And you could kind of see Tennessee kind of, that was their, like, peak of their run. They needed Maya more to keep it, you know, and, like, it changed everything. So once in a while you see that, you know. You'll see that in I don't think you see it as much in the guys' game. There's not like this, oh, my God, recruit. And we'll talk about that because we're obviously DJ Wagner on the boys' side from Camden. He picked Kentucky, and we'll see where JuJu goes. And we want to talk a little bit about the recruiting classes. But let's switch to the NBA, and then we'll get back to the recruiting classes as we talked about the WNBA. You know, we talked about the rookies. Obviously, we debated those top 3 picks on our draft show a bunch. We talked about Jabari Smith from Auburn at the Rockets and their young group. We talked about Paolo, and he kind of switched everybody at the last minute. He switched to the #1 pick, and somebody did their homework, looks like, on that really well. And then obviously Ani, your guy Chet, got injured, so he's kind of like, you know, no grade. It's not an F grade, it's not an A grade, it's just no grade, incomplete. So what are you taking Ani there early, maybe with some other draft picks too, but talk a little bit about those top 3 guys and what we talked about then and what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Paolo, obviously he's the best rookie. That was a really good pick. You know, his scoring, his passing, just the inside-out game is really good for Orlando. Orlando's had some good wins. You know, they beat Dallas. I think they defeated the Warriors. So, like, you know, Paolo's a really good addition for what they have, and Orlando can go big lineups with like Bol and him, and they get really interesting, like Terrence Ross playing the point, you know, or Paolo playing some point forward. So his versatility is key. You know, that's the name of the game in the NBA. Like you talked about with Chet, like a no grade playing. But Jabari Smith, you know, people are like, hey, he's struggling, or it's kind of a mixed bag. But, you know, if you watch Houston play, it's a mixed bag. You know, he's
Houston is a mixed bag.
right. Like, you know, Kevin Porter Jr. run the 1. You know, I know it's an experiment, but it's not working out great right now. Jalen Green's kind of really inefficient with his scoring. You know, the bright spot with Houston is really Tyree Eason, you know, from LSU. That's he's playing well, just his defensive versatility, transition finisher. His shot is gotten a lot better since it was in college. So, you know, having him, I think Jabari is going to be fine. We talked about it some. I just think they need a point guard. Houston needs a point guard, and they just need some leadership. And, you know, I'm hearing that Jabari's been trying to kind of be that leader. He's been vocal. You know, him and Jalen Green have kind of gotten into it a little bit. But I just think they just need more. They just need another, like, strong leader and a point guard. And I think this team can be good, but they're just young. Inefficient. You don't have a true one. And I'll keep going. I can't keep going on Houston, but that's it right there. You know, you got Jaden Ivey, who's been really good for Detroit.
He has been good.
Shooting, scoring, everything. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. Just like that athletic with that much speed, especially with the basketball in his hands. You know, you got someone that can really play, and he mixes well with Cade Cunningham. Keegan Murray's been solid with Sacramento. I know he missed the first game or so, but he's averaging like 12 points, couple rebounds. That's a solid piece, and Sacramento's doing okay. You know, this is one of the teams that's just is the most balanced team they've had. Jeremy Sohan's been pretty good for San Antonio. Walker Kessler has been big coming off the bench for Utah, you know, just his rim protecting and rebounding presence. And you got Christian Coloco, your boy at Arizona, from Arizona. You know, he's been good in Toronto. He got no big old brawl, but, you know.
That's awesome.
But he's been,
but
he's been good. He's a good piece for Toronto. Provides a defensive interior presence, and you know this rookie class is good. And then next year when Chet comes back, I think we'll see more. And Benedict Mathurin, I can't forget about him. You know,
oh God, he's scoring really well.
When they see what LeBron was like, and you know we talk crap, and I don't know what he was about on that. I don't know what he was smoking, but you know he's been good. He's been really good scoring the basketball. Indiana's exciting to watch. I don't know if y'all have watched them, like just a full game, like with him and Halliburton in that backcourt. It's been fun. And when Miles Turner is healthy, like that's a fun group to watch. And Benedict's been a big piece.
Yeah, I remember I told one of my AAU coaches that I know well, I said, how many spots is Ben going to go too low? He's like 5 spots too low. And it was true. Like, you can see he was going to be good. He just, obviously, he wasn't going to break that top 3, but he's a really good player, real confident. To me, I see, like you said, the guys that have strength. Obviously, the draft is a lot of young guys, guys that need more physical development. And obviously, Chelsea likes to talk about fit and where you go. And if you have too many guards, you got to make a trade. Or you got to get a forward, or if you got too many glutted forwards, you got to get a guard. And you see that with Golden State. You see where a guy's thriving, like Tari or Jaden Ivey, you mentioned, Ani, but then you see a guy like James Wiseman, who's not a rookie, and he has to go down to the G League so he can get more minutes.
Right.
So everybody's in a different boat, because honestly, James Wiseman, to me, he would help a lot of teams, just maybe not in that team right now. So I don't know, Chelsea, do you have some of the similar sentiments, or do you have a few other guys that, or a few other, insight on the rookies that you like or that you've seen?
No, I mean, I think Ani pretty much hit the nail on the head. I will say that I knew Paolo was good, but I didn't think he was, like, he's starting to, like, do some things that I didn't really know, like, he can do. Like, he can really pass. He can really create. He's one of their leading, like, playmakers. So, based off of obviously what's happened so far, he's the clear, by far rookie of the year. Nobody's going to be able to kind of overtake that. But I've just been surprised by him. I'm glad Ani mentioned Benedict too, because he's had some really good games, really efficient games.
Yeah.
So I think we're seeing a lot of good things from the rookies. I did want to ask Ani though, like, how many years away are the Rockets from being competitive? You pretty much went down the whole roster of, who they have and what's happening and stuff like that. And I feel like they need to make changes. I feel like they have way too many, young guys, whether they're active, not active. I'm not sure, between like Daishen Nix and, Ty Washington. You said you don't like KPJ playing point. So how many years away are they? I didn't want to interrupt you during, your speech, but that is a question that I wanted to ask.
Well, obviously they're in the rebuilding stage. So I think rebuilding stages, you're talking about a 3 to 5 year process of being competitive, being a playoff team year by year. They have to figure out who their core is. I know Jabari Smith's in their core, but is Jalen Green and KPJ really in their core when you talk about making a big playoff run, right? Or do they're obviously gonna have a high draft pick this year. Are they looking, like, say, they get number 1, they get Victor, then is it Victor, Jabari, then you just need a solid piece, right? Yeah. I think the NBA is kind of getting away from super teams. I think it's kind of getting away from that because we've seen some bad experiments like the Brooklyn Nets. So I think it's all about can Houston, I think it's 3 to 5 years till we see them be a serious playoff contender. But they got to find a point. They got to figure out who their core is, and either Jalen Green or I think between Jalen Green or KPJ, one of them is going to have to step up and be a more efficient player. For me, I think it's KPJ, even though I don't like him at the point. I think Houston's like experimenting, but I think like when he really becomes the player that he should be, and I think it will, he's going to be really good on the wings. Like on the wing, like I think they'll have a point guard, and then now you put him on the wing, and he's had years of being a point guard. I think that's where you really see like the ultimate growth. It's Jalen Green right now, which I don't know because he's really so much of an off guard. Does he become more of an effective scorer? Does he fit? Lano Steins, but I say 3 to 5 years.
Okay, and you mentioned KPJ being an experiment, like. I just don't really know, like, if he's in their long-term plans or not. Like, he signed that weird contract that's like, so much money, but not really guaranteed. Like, and I know that a little bit has to do with his reputation, for some off-court stuff. But I don't know. Like, I just don't see the direction. And we kind of talked about that in the draft show about, like, what they're doing. But I definitely agree with you in terms of just, like, they need to kind of establish what kind of team they're going to be, I guess. But one team that I have been watching a lot because they have one of my favorite players is Oklahoma City. Like, I really wish Chet, was available, because when I watch SGA play, and I'm being totally honest with you, like, I've watched many games where he's the best player on the floor. Like, literally. Like, he is incredible. And I'm talking about, everybody's playing, and he's just so dominant. His pace, His feel for the game is like second to none. So I really feel like Chet would have moved the needle for them, not to maybe so make them a top, 5 team in the West, but right now they're 6-8, a little bit under 500. SGA is having to be super heroic in a lot of his games, 32, 34. Like if you look at his last several games, like they've been incredible. So I kind of just, wonder what it would have been like if Chet was available this season, because I don't think we're going to see him this year. They're going to probably be better safe than sorry and wait,
Sure.
For next season. But, that's kind of just a team that I always think like, what could have been if he was actually playing this year.
Yeah, and my background kind of loud right now, but I love Thunder. SGA is upset about just he wants to win now. He kind of reports of him wanting to win now and get after. And I think Oklahoma with Chet would be a team that could potentially be a play-in team. So I like Oklahoma. I like the direction. It'd be interesting who they draft next year and what their core is, and maybe they use their draft picks for a veteran leadership for next year to really make a big run at it. Yeah,
and just real quick, speaking of the upcoming draft, my poor Lakers, I can hardly watch. I don't stay up. I have games of my own, so I'm not going to stay up at 4 o'clock in the morning so I just get waxed. But because we suck so bad, now, Wemby, who's going to be the 100% number 1 pick in the draft next year, like the Pelicans have our lottery pick. Our team sucks, and the Pelicans might have a chance of actually getting this kid. So it makes me sick to my stomach. But, if Oklahoma City or somebody's fortunate enough to, end up with him, then obviously he's for sure a game changer. But I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that. And you guys can chime in on my Lakers a little bit, not too much. It's already very, very depressing, but you guys can chime in on them if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that, it depends what the protection is on that pick for the Lakers. If it's top 3 protected or however way that looks, then the Lakers may still have it. But, I mean, Lakers are horrible. They should tank. I said it before. They should trade LeBron and AD. Ronnie, did I not say this? I told y'all this before. They need to trade both of them, rebuild. But, I'm not going to kill your Lakers too bad, Chelsea. But, it just depends what the protection of that pick is. If New Orleans, I don't know the exact details, but New Orleans does get Lakers pick and they have a number 1 pick, I mean, we may see a dynasty.
Oh my gosh. Ronnie, I know you've probably been following the Lakers a little bit, but just chime in on my boy Russ. Say something positive. I know you are a Russ, critic, but he's been good in these last couple games, and he's been coming off the bench and he's been accepting his new role. So just chime in on him and say something nice.
Yeah. Obviously he's a good player, so he can adjust and he'll get it done. I don't know how good they are, even if he is playing well. I mean, I don't know how much of a big difference it's making, like meaning with the 1-loss record and trying to get in the playoffs or the little mini tournament, but they're kind of stuck in no man's land. I think my main takeaway is how long now it seems like the beginning of COVID, the bubble, and that just seems so long ago now. It just, in terms of basketball time, the Lakers thought they had something going, and I kind of related a little bit to the Lakers when they beat Orlando, and then they had won their 2nd straight title, and then they beat Boston. So they had Andrew Bynum was young, they still had a core, and then all of a sudden it just like fell apart. And I think that's what's happening again. Like the age is catching up. Just not the makeup of the roster. Like we said, Chelsea, you're big on that. The makeup of the roster. Like you have this all-time great player and you have no shooters around him. I think that's still the problem. But yeah, you're right. Russ is a good player. I mean, you don't just become an MVP and he knows how to play. Like he can make some positive plays, but it's just the makeup of the roster is just all wrong. They don't have good. They just don't have good evaluate. They're not evaluating well right now for whatever reason. Could be ownership. You could blame Rob Pelinka. You could blame Magic for leaving. There's a lot of blame to go around. But
I do agree with Ronnie though, like that they need to trade LeBron and AD and just kind of move on.
No, because they can trade AD because whoever wants, because he's going to lose value quick, especially if he gets hurt again. But you can't trade LeBron because the Lakers they didn't trade Kobe when they knew Kobe's ending was going to be bad after the Achilles. If you want the next star, you don't want to trade the one you had before. You know what I mean? That's one spot you go to where like, hey, we'll sacrifice the end of your career to keep you, to make you a Laker. I think if a guy's on a Lakers, he wants to stay on the Lakers. He wants that legacy. I knew Kobe's ending was going to be bad. I don't care if there's Lakers fans go crazy. I knew they weren't good. I knew they were terrible. We could talk about the 60-point game. The Lakers were terrible for like 3 or 4 years. So everybody goes, oh, he scored 60 in that game. Yeah, but they were awful. You know, they're about as awful as this team. They've really been bad. If you think about it, besides the bubble, they've been bad now for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like that. Chelsea, 10 years ago, you were 22 years old, 23 years old. You know, Ani, how old were you 10 years? That's a long time in basketball time. You know, they've been bad. Right. Besides the bubble, they've been bad. You know, so.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of blowing up a roster after you win, though.
Yeah.
Like, I know you need to get better, but we won in the bubble, and maybe it's the asterisk championship, whatever. But it's like they got rid of the whole team after, they had the #1 defense. They had guys, and to me, like, less is more. And I'm a Russ fan, but I'm not giving up my whole bench, my whole, dirty work players, my catch and shoot guys, my 3-and-D guys. Like, I'm just not doing that.
Yeah,
like you said, the direction of the league is different now. Super teams. Maybe, maybe not, but that you won and then you got rid of the whole roster, half of it.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we keep transitioning, bringing up more topics. Is Brandon Jennings, our guy, Brandon Jennings talked about that. It's a players league and the players control a lot. Well, they're always not making the right moves. And we'll talk a little bit about New Jersey and what they're doing there in Brooklyn. And like you said, is Brandon a little bit right? In essence, like the players sometimes are just going buck wild and want their buddies on the team, or maybe their agency strong. I want this guy on the team. Like you said, Chelsea, maybe that's not the right move sometimes business wise. You know, everybody's hooked up with somebody. Everybody's hooked up with some agency, or some guys are with a powerful one. And like you said, it's LeBron's league in essence. And he controls a lot, and we know that. But like, is that always good? Like, is that always going to be good? I don't know. It's not working in Brooklyn.
No.
They had to get rid of Steve Nash. So most people are going to say that's because of the KD and Kyrie situation. Is that good? I mean, he didn't even. I don't know what he did. He didn't get a chance. So then Kyrie was like, there come out reports that he's not even running the plays that Nash is calling. So then what are we doing here then? You know, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Go ahead. What do you guys think about that, Ani?
No, I just think Nash was there as a babysitter. You know, I can't really critique his coaching acumen because, you know, he really was there to babysit Kyrie and KD's and James Harden's emotions and their egos. So when Kyrie and them knew this, right? You got a first-year head coach coaching them. Yeah. Like, they're going to abuse the situation, you know, and they misused it. So I'm not surprised by it. Nash isn't the problem. You know, that team is.
But he had no business being their coach, though, too.
He had no business. Absolutely. Absolutely. But he was there because what the management thought was Kyrie Harden and KD are good enough to win us a title. You just go out there, don't mess it up, and let them win. The reality is you didn't have a team strong enough. First off, obviously they were injured. They were injured, and Kyrie had his moments. But that team wasn't constructed to win an NBA title. You didn't have enough shooting. And what guys got to understand, like, Ronnie, when you talk about LeBron, when you bring other superstars to play with like a KD or LeBron, you have to change your game in order to win. That's why Russ is not good with LeBron, because he has to change his game to play for LeBron. Sure. And other guys did, but you didn't bring the right guys. That team was not constructed enough to win a championship. Like, maybe go 2 rounds, maybe get in the conference finals and, you know, whatever. But, you know, Nash was there just to babysit those guys. He was not. They thought that team was good enough for Nash just to stand there, not mess things up, and win.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we can go a lot about that. And Chelsea, you have you like you said, you like Russ. You think he's a good player. Ani made your point, said it's got to fit. And I just think so much has changed just from the bubble. I want to change subject here. How is Denver? You know, Jamal Murray looked like an all-pro. Maybe could win an NBA title there in the bubble. They looked that good. Then he had the injury. Is that team even still in the mix long term? I don't know, Ani, if you have any thought about that. Like Jamal Murray looked awesome in the bubble. Now he's, you know, like he's good, but you know, it's a different factor. It's a different time now. Only two calendar years later and 3 seasons later, things change quickly. And you said you got to adjust. I just think like when we go back to Paolo and those guys, the strong, physically strong guys and physically fit guys are the ones, and the ones that are physically ready and able. Like AD could be as good as you want. If he's not physically ready and he's not available, he's useless. Right. You know what I mean? I think that's what Paolo's difference is. I don't think he's shown anything that he can do. He's just physically ready for the rigors of the league, where a lot of rookies are. I think Tari Eason is like that too. He's strong. He's rebounds good. I think we saw that at the summer league. Like, man, Tari Eason's we didn't talk about him much in the draft show a little bit, but we surely talked about him when we saw him as far as like how ready he looked. Yeah. You know, so I don't know where some of these teams are going with. If you're not physically ready, you're not going anywhere. That's why I wanted to talk a little bit about the Bucks and I guess the Celtics too. Are they that good, guys, or like is Giannis just that good? And Chelsea, you mentioned it a long time ago. If you're physically strong, you blow by everybody, go down here. Who cares what you can shoot? And none of that matters. And I think you see it a little bit with Paolo. He's just blowing by guys like he's a 5-year vet.
Yeah. Well, you know, to answer your question, the Bucks are that good. Yeah. Giannis, in my mind, is the undisputed best player in the world. It's not close. And, you know, we've talked about this before on the show. Like, don't downplay what somebody does and say it's not a skill. Because if it was easy, then everybody can do it. And there's nobody who can do what Giannis does. He's going to get 30 points. He's going to guard like crazy. He's big and strong and physical. No, he's not, you know, doing all these tricky moves and shooting the deep ball, but he's still having 30 points. And he's just going to run down the lane and dunk on everybody. And there's nothing that you can do about it. But just when I look at the Bucks collectively, they are a well-oiled machine. And you just talked about, Ani just talked about the Nets being built to win a championship. They don't have it. But when you look at the Bucks, they have every piece that you need. Right. You know, they have shooting. They have your superstar that can take over a game and dominate. Yeah. You know, they have defense, probably the best guard defender in the league in Drew Holiday. You know, they're going to get Chris Middleton back, who's one of the best two-way players in the league as well when he's healthy. So, you know, this team is just built to win. They're rolling. I'm liking what I'm seeing from them. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Celtics. You know, Jason Tatum is really coming into his own. And I love the tandem between him and Jaylen Brown, even though I know Jaylen Brown was in trade talks and stuff last year. But you talk about core, Ronnie, like I want to build with Jason and Jaylen. Right. Like you can build with those two guys, and they're young and they're talented. And, you know, every year they're showing improvement. And we saw that huge leap that they made last year. And now they've added Brogdon, and they're gonna be right there, you know. So I think that they're the two best teams by far. You talked a little bit about the Warriors previously. I don't think that they can really recover from that Draymond thing. I know people try not to talk about it anymore, and they try to say, "Oh, we're professional. It has nothing to do with basketball." But there's no way a girl could punch me like that and think that we're just going to be teammates and just friends and nothing's happened. Like, I think that has affected their locker room. There's just no way.
Oh, yeah. There's no way. Because the public saw it. You know what I mean? And they know how bad
Ronnie, even if the public didn't see it, I cannot let a girl punch me like that and think that we're just going to sit side by side in the locker room and have a blast for 82 games. There's no way.
No.
So, you know, I don't know what they need to do there, but the Warriors aren't the Warriors. The Bucks and the Celtics are the clear favorites. There's some good teams in the West, but that's just kind of how it's looking so far. What do you think, Ani?
Yeah, Milwaukee, you know, when you look at Milwaukee and Boston, you look at two teams that can switch. You talk about defense, like guys can switch and play multiple roles. Malcolm Brogdon was a big piece added for Boston, just another bench scorer. And when you look at Milwaukee, you know, they kind of changed up a little bit how they defend. They used to really just say no paint, like they don't would prevent paint scores. Now they're really denying the 3-point line really hard and making guys, welcoming guys in the paint and, you know, really altering. They're just making it tough. Like their defense is so good this year, and they changed, like they have adapted to the times, because when they won the title, they kind of did more drop coverage and allowed the shooting. Now they're really taking that away and daring guys to go to the paint when you have Brook Lopez, who's a quality shot blocker. You have Bobby Portis, who's a good team defender, and you got Giannis as well. So just looking at Milwaukee's defenses, they're just so tough to score on. In Boston, like you talked about, Chelsea, you know, you have a core of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. You know, those are two big wing scorers that can get their buckets anytime. And then Marcus Smart's doing a solid job. Grant Williams is doing a good job. You know, Robert Williams, I mean, is he back yet? I mean, last I saw that he wasn't back. So
not yet.
Not yet. I mean, he hasn't been playing.
I mean, he will be though. So
yeah, like Boston is this good, and their best center hasn't played. You're starting 39-year-old Al Horford. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's impressive. And like you talked about with Golden State, that Draymond thing, like if someone knocked me out like that, we have issues. Like I would have to get my leg back for one, you know.
There's no way.
And
what's crazy is what I saw, like some of the trainers and some of the other facility guys and some guys that are on the staff were just looked the other way, like, okay, this is gonna have like that. That's not a good sign right there, because they've been building up and they've been talking shit. You know, talking shit. You know, and just bam, couldn't. Yeah, that's harder. Sometimes you got to make a trade. It happened with Detroit when and obviously it wasn't a slug, it wasn't a fight, but like Adrian Dantley didn't fit in with those guys. Yeah. They were trying to beat the Lakers and win the title. And even in the huddle, you can see it. You know, it was Benny Johnson, Isaiah, you know, Joe Dumars and Lambert, and they were close. And AD would be off to the side. And then when they traded for Mark Aguirre, boom, 19-game winning streak. That quick, 19-game winning streak. So, like, sometimes that just – I can see that happening with Golden State. If Golden State made a move, I guarantee you they'd start winning. I'm not saying we can trade either one. I just say if they made a move, they'd start winning.
Well, what's the move? They're not. They can't trade Jordan Poole.
Yeah, no,
they just locked him into
it's got to be Draymond. It's got to be Draymond, and they know
what's Draymond's value.
Yeah,
I know his value to the Warriors, but I'm asking you to, as a GM and as a member of another team, what is his value to you, Ani? Like,
this is defense and his passing ability. Obviously, not a great shooter. If you're a team that, if you feel like you're a piece away from really contending, you got to take a look at Draymond. Like, I'm not saying they would, but like if Philly felt like they really needed Draymond, even though you got a PJ Tucker, maybe you take a chance on that because you're contending, like you're contending right now, right? Yeah. It just depends where the team is trying to get to. If you're a team that you're like, okay, we're one piece away and they think Draymond's it, then they do it. If you're a young team like New Orleans Pelicans, you don't bring a Draymond in. It doesn't make any sense. You're not trying to win right now. But if you're Philly, maybe, you know, maybe that's something you look at. But
the problem with that, like we said, Ani, is as soon as that video came out, his trade value and the leverage the Golden State had just plummeled. You know, I'll give you a second-round pick for him.
Right.
I was about to say, so how much money, though, Ani, would you lock him in for? What's the money looking like? Because I know, you know, he thinks he's going to get – I don't know if he thinks this, but I think if I was Draymond, I would think this, that I'm going to get another big contract. And I don't think that that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a team, you have leverage there. He'll probably want to look for about $20 million a year. And then you know, if you're yeah, I mean, you're an agent, but listen, if you're an agent, you know, this new TV deals coming and dudes are going to be making 40, 50 mil. Then that may be where you say, okay, what's 20 million when y'all salary cap is going to raise, right? Yeah. But really, he's a 10 to 15 million a year guy. I'll probably put him on a 1 year.
Yeah. Here's the thing I look at him, and I would say this if I was the other team. Let's go. Steph Curry got injured and Klay Thompson got injured. He was supposed to lead. The Warriors were shit. He's not valuable to me. Give me second or a second round pick. We'll give you a conditional pick. Take it or leave it. Not buy. Ain't worth it. Just straight up. Especially now with all this that's happening. Maybe a year or two again, like we've been saying on this has kind of been the theme of this. Like a lot of things change quick. You know, it's just a lot of things change fast in the league.
Right. You can't lock him into a multi-year deal. It had to be a 1-year deal. Like if I were to, like, let's say they trade him and then you bring him back. If I want him back, 1-year deal. I would hit him on 1-year deals. I would not do 2-3 years with him.
Because it's too volatile. You don't know what could happen.
Exactly.
And obviously he's a good player. He's not one of my favorites, but I know he's a good player. But how good is he on a weak team? He's useless on a weak team.
Oh yeah.
Only good on another contending team. You know what I mean?
If I had to pick a random team, I could see him fitting in with like Phoenix, to be honest. Like they lost Jay Crowder, an emotional leader, defender, obviously he scores much better than Draymond, but I don't know. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen because I don't think that he can stay. I don't think they'll offer him an extension anymore. And I'm actually curious, just let's talk about this since we're already here. Like what's going to happen with Clay? Like, Jordan Poole was inserted for Clay in the starting lineup last night against Sacramento, and he went berserk. Like, he shows flashes all the time of him just being head and shoulders better at this point in his career than Klay Thompson. And, Clay is a splash brother and, all that rah, 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 4 rings. That's great. But right now, Charles Barkley, was accurate. And when he said that Clay's not the same player that he was. And, we can talk about why, and it is hard. And I'm a player that's had 4 knee surgeries myself. So I definitely understand when you lose stuff, because of just physically, you just can't get up to do it anymore. Like I feel that all the time in my games. Like I can sit down and really guard in spurts. And then sometimes I'm like LeBron, I'm over there hanging out. So, what like, just real quick, your thoughts, Ani, on Klay Thompson and just kind of what you see happening since we're talking Warriors right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's off his prime. I mean, he's probably really good as a bench player, to be honest with you. That's his role. I think he should embrace it. Just can't move the way he used to, can't create separation even off the ball like, he really could, just sprinting off those screens and stuff.
And the shooting too.
Yeah, just shooting.
Crazy. It hasn't gone back up. He still shoots Klay shots, but they're not going in, so they're like bad shots.
Wow.
Right. And then Ronnie made the point, like you talk about Jamal Murray, like how many of these guys that are out for 2 years, even look like a Kawhi Leonard who's still hurt, these guys that are out for 1.5 to 2 years, Ben Simmons was the same, like these guys don't come back the same. Like you miss 2 years and you're not going to be the same regardless of whatever the best treatment in the world or anything. You're going to lose a step. You haven't played a game in 600 days, or for Klay it was 1,000. Like even last year in the playoffs, he wasn't great. Like he had moments, but
sure.
Like sometimes he was the worst player in the lineup. And especially
based on that, that's what I understand about LeBron. You got not only a once in a million player, you got a once in a million injury-free guy. Why don't you get young athletic guys with them? Mm-hmm. I just don't understand. You should have known that 5 years ago. Right. I could go on forever and there about that. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I think you guys are right. The injuries and things change fast, and Milwaukee and Boston has got to, looks like we'll see as the season goes. We'll obviously cover it here on our show, but real quick, what did you guys think about Jacques Vaughn and that whole situation? Udoka maybe going from Boston and he's suspended for his off the court stuff, and then Brooklyn already has a dumpster fire going, and now they were going to jump in the fire and add more fire to it, and then they went with Jacques Vaughn.
Go ahead, Joe.
I think Jacques Vaughn should have been like the head coach option even before Nash. Like he's qualified. He's been a assistant coach in waiting to lead a team, and you saw the turnaround that they've had in the last 5 games just with him there. I mean, they took an L to the Lakers the other day because Anthony Davis turned back the clock and looked like the guy we've been wanting him to be. Yeah. But besides that, they picked up their defense, their intensity. I think he's somebody that the guys listen to and respect. And, to Ani's point, that they definitely didn't respect, Steve Nash. And, I just hate, personally that sometimes these opportunities come the way that they do. I'm grateful that he's getting his shot and stuff like that, but it's why does all this stuff have to happen? And Udoka being in his scandal, and okay, we're already in turmoil with Kyrie, so we can't really hire him as the head coach. So, okay, let's give it to him. And even when I looked at, Jacques Vaughn's presser, his release when he accepted the position. And he made some weird statement about, how he wasn't his wife's first choice. But hey, it worked out, and they ended up being together for 20 years. So it's like, that's funny, but that breaks my heart. Because he's basically saying, like, I know you guys didn't choose me. You had to. And it's probably going to work out that you did. And he's accepting that. But I don't like that. Just me personally. But I'm happy that he's getting the opportunity. I'm happy that the team has, been affected positively from this point, just from him taking over the realms. But I don't know. That's my perspective on it. Like, I don't really like it.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like, Ime Udoka is the better candidate, than him. That should have been their first choice, because it's still too soon to hire him. Like, we're not even 60 days since the whole thing. And, you were going to hire him in Brooklyn. You already have enough going on as it is. Like, that wasn't hiring Ime. Maybe, yes, that's the best coach available, but that wasn't that's not the best hire for
not the best move. Yeah,
I think Jock is going to do a fine job. I hate watching Brooklyn play, to be honest with you. Like, Ben Simmons is horrible. KD is fine. I like Claxton. I just think that team is constructed bad. Jock doesn't have a lot to really work with. They'll probably be a play-in team or something, but I think he'll do a good job. I think he's what they need, a quality coach that knows how to manage egos, but also do work on the court. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I think he's the best hire for their situation, because they got a really bad situation.
Yeah, boy, you're right about that. I could just imagine if the hire went through of Udoka, and you can see all these people protesting Kyrie on one side of the arena and protesting on the other side. And it's just like, is this even basketball? So yeah, that's we'll see. Just I hope for my guy Jock it works out well. He's kind of one of my favorite players. He's from Southern California here, Muir High in Pasadena. He went to Kansas, and I just hope he just does well, personally. But it's not an easy situation, like you said, Ani. They're fighting for a playoff spot. And Chelsea's statement, it's just not a way to start off good.
Right.
Like, it's just something people are going to remember, So,
Ronnie, how do you think he's going to be able to integrate Kyrie back to the team? And just, what are your thoughts on Kyrie's situation? I mean, since we're talking about Brooklyn.
I like Jacques Vaughn is a dial scholar athlete. Jacques Vaughn's a 4.0 student. He's a smart guy. He stuck around in the league longer than his probably ability should have let him. Because he's smart, he's a good team player. He knew how to cheer on the bench when he was the 11th guy toward the end of his career. So I think he'll be able to give Kyrie some good perspective. Really, honestly, he's like a really highly thought of individual, regardless of his X's and O's. Just Kyrie. Here's the thing, you mentioned it. Parents are crazy. We talk about this a lot. We talk about the expectations of NIL. It's only getting bigger. When this TV deal goes through, these salaries are going to be insane. Changing the subject just slightly, but it's to my point, is our guy Giannis is going to be making $500 million toward the end of his career. You know what I mean? He's really going to sign a contract for $500 million, something like that. And that's just where the money's going. The TV's money is going to go from $3 billion to about $8 billion. So when you have a guy like Kyrie, he doesn't need to play basketball anymore. It's not like you said, Chelsea, some of your friends that are fighting to play in Italy or Belgium or Switzerland, wherever they're playing, and they got to get to the WNBA camp, and it's about their money. Kyrie Irving, kids don't have to work if he does it right. So that's where it's going to be going. Like, Kyrie, are you dedicated? Do you want this? I hope Jock can help him in that regard. Like, what is it that you want? Do you want to find a bigger purpose in your life? Are you trying to figure out this thing that, this controversy, or it's not a controversy to him, but the controversy in his statements? Like, is that what you want to do? Then go do it. Like, how dedicated is he? Would be my question. Long term, is he?
Do you think he wants to play? Money. Yeah. Like, what's your feeling on it? Like, do you think he wants to?
I think when you're making 40 million a year, it's easy to get distracted. That's my point. So.
Yeah,
it's only going to get bigger. The money's only going to get bigger. So you need guys. That's what separates the greats from the guys who had one big shot in the finals. Kyrie, that's 2016. Your big shot in the what have you done since? That's what I would look at. Like, Joe, are you here to win? If not, then, you know, we got to make a decision. Obviously, the money's part of it, and his contract or the structure of it's part of it. But, like, they got to decide that. You got to decide. That's a big factor in all this. You got to decide how hungry a guy is. And I'm not sure. I really don't know, Chelsea, to answer your question, how hungry he is to be that player he was in Cleveland. He's an older man. He has more perspective. He has more knowledge. What's he going to do with it?
Ani?
No, I'm in agreement. I mean, when Kyrie, it looks like he's going on through the next phase of his career, like just outside of basketball. And I think that's kind of I think he cares and loves basketball, but I think he feels like there's a bigger purpose for him, for himself. And I think that's where Jock is going to have to be creative on how to motivate him.
Yeah.
You know, but I think Kyrie's going to play. Like he's a gamer. He's going to play. I just think you're going to get some days where Kyrie's like, whatever. And some days he's going to be like, all right, come on, let's go. Let's rock with it. But I think Jock will be a good person to be able just to navigate that day-to-day process with him. But I mean, I'll be honest, like, I don't think he really cares too much. Like at this point, I think he just there, get his paycheck and keep it pushing.
Well, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I wouldn't care so much based off of everything that's happened and what they're doing for him to be able to come back and play.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's excessive. Like, you know, we have to piggyback on, or we have to just kind of talk about this because we're here, but like, you know, he posted that documentary. He gave no caption, you know,
right.
People that have seen the documentary talk about the untruths that are in there and how hurtful it is to certain communities. And I certainly don't agree with that. And I wish that if you're going to post something so controversial that Kyrie would have added some context or some clarity, because then he would have avoided the whole media, you know, spectacle that happened with all the questions and stuff like that. But I am not a fan of all the requirements that he has to do to, you know, maintain his status as a member of the Brooklyn Nets. I think it's excessive. I think, you know, the owner already said that he met with Kyrie and he believes that he's not that he believes, you know, he doesn't have these thoughts really towards the Jewish community and stuff like that. And I just feel like he apologized and there's some things that he can maybe do behind the scenes to kind of just gain a little more knowledge. Because I really just feel like he's soul searching. And a part of me doesn't agree with the message and how he's done certain things. But a part of me as a Black woman too understands that, like, you know, some of our history has been watered down, you know, and we see this stuff in, you know, in our textbooks in school. You know, they talk about slavery as, you know, something that was bad, but, you know, just my ancestors and my grandma who passed away, who was old and was in certain times of segregation and stuff like that, talked about how it was way more extreme than we could ever imagine, or that it's ever going to be written about in these books. So I cannot blame somebody for, I guess, soul searching and just kind of wanting answers about certain stuff. I don't think that you need to downplay another community in the process and, you know, kind of compare, you know, these atrocities that have happened across different communities. But I just think it's too much. And if somebody said you have to do all this stuff and give a whole bunch of money, I'm going to say no. I don't want to do it. Sorry. That's my answer to it.
Yeah, I think the requirements for him to get back in was wild. I think, didn't they add another step to the process too? Like,
yeah, that's over my head in terms of like the stuff he has to do. I'm like, what is this?
Well, just
because
the other day,
you're. I'm sorry to cut you off, Chelsea. You are. If you know some people that are older or some people that have been through some stuff, you know they've been through some stuff. Even people that you know would passed away. So I know some people that, you know, my grandpa, he lived in Watts. All he can do was go to downtown LA, Pershing Square. That's the only place he can go. Watts, Pershing Square. Why? The other towns were segregated. He couldn't go. He couldn't be there after night. So when you know people went through stuff like that, you know, so when you're saying, you know, it's, and people make these off the wall social media comments like, oh, this is like slavery. I'm like, oh man, this is not going to go good. This is not going to go good. Nobody's going to come out of here good because you're not giving credence to what Chelsea, like you said, your grandmother went through, her mother went through, and they're the people they know went through, whether it's 1940, 50, 19, even going to the 20s and early 20th century. It's, now we're talking about something totally else. And if you don't, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't start talking about it. Don't just say
but truthfully, Ronnie, to your point, like a lot of us only know certain these stories because they were told to us, not because we learned about them.
Correct.
Like everybody, like you said, not everybody, but minority people have grandparents and great grandparents that experience this stuff.
Correct.
So it's not, it is watered down. You see now they have the critical race theory where they want to talk about certain things in schools, and it's been rejected. And, people feel like, I don't want my kids to hate themselves if they're white and, learn about all this different stuff that happened. But the truth of the matter is this stuff did happen. And we need to.
We're not dealing with it well. Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to respect that communities of whether it's color or whatever have went through certain things. And to me, I feel like the acknowledgement is the problem that I think the Black community struggles with. I think, you don't hear people. I would never tell a Jewish person to get over the Holocaust. But I've seen a lot of people say that Black people need to get over slavery. I've seen that with my own eyes many times on social media. You know what I mean? Like,
that's not going to go over well. Yeah. Well, I would say this, a Porter Junior High where I went to school, junior high, Porter Junior High. Don't forget, her name's Gloria Rogers, my friend. We're going through the history book and we're sitting there. She goes, this history book is shit. Straight up, she threw it down and we were like, dang, Gloria. You were like, God damn, like that's hard. Us guys are like, dang, Gloria, that's hard. But like, the class was shocked, we're like, cause she was right. This is your point. They weren't telling the truth because she said, oh, my mom and my grandma told me this is crap. I don't care. Fail me. Boom. She didn't care. And that's kind of to your point. I was like, I didn't see too many instances of that, but that was one thing I remember. My friend Gloria Rogers, we were in 8th or 9th grade history. She was just like, nah, this is bull. You know what I mean? And it's to your guys' point. Some people know. And that's why it's very hard when we say, oh, that kid has a bad attitude. He's hard to learn. Well, no, some kids know that this is crap.
Right.
I've seen that. Like, you kids know, Ani, you've been through that where you've been in a class like, man, I'm gonna listen to this, because we're not getting, they're not, the teacher's not relating, or they're not reading the room and saying, hey, why is that kid a little distraught, or he's not listening? It ain't because he can't listen, it's because at home he's getting something else, So that's what needs to be discussed more in light to that Kyrie situation. And back to Jacques Vaughn, hopefully he can shed some light as an older guy. That maybe he can give him some good insight. Like you said, you all need leadership. You need Giannis, you need athleticism, and you need leadership. Right. Basically, to leave on that point, you need leadership, which is one of the biggest ones. So let's switch gears real quick. As we close out, we kind of want to go talk about that recruiting angle. We talked about DJ Wagner and Camden, number 17 in the Fab 50. They're going to start their season way later because New Jersey starts way later, end of November. But Ani, when he signed that NIL deal with Nike, did you know it was okay? He's going to Kentucky and
when he signed that, I was like, yeah, it's Kentucky. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. I always thought it was Kentucky, and Louisville would just kept creeping in. Sure. Then I know at one point in time, people really thought it was Louisville. Yeah. But yeah, after he signed that deal, I was like, it's Kentucky. That's a done deal.
Yeah, you have Kenny Payne and you have Nolan, who's supposed to be highly regarded, like recruiters, or they're young. Nolan's a young guy and he has a lot of energy and he's charismatic. And then you have his grandfather working there at Louisville, who's a legend. He won an NCAA title there, and Coach Cal's popping his collar, still got it done. So it's like, but Chelsea, I wanted to ask you, what do you think? And you're saying, okay, you got a number 1 recruiting class. We talked a little bit about it on the girls' side, but like, what is it to you? What does the number 1 recruiting class mean on the boys' side? Just in highlight.
It doesn't translate as much to me. Sure. Kentucky's had how many number 1 recruiting classes? They don't got that many championships, from it. Sure. So I feel like obviously you always want to add the most talented pieces, to your program as possible. So, Calipari is very good at doing that. And I think more so when I look at just the direction of Kentucky, it's more so just to go one and done. I don't think anybody's thinking there, oh, I'm going to go win. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to the league. So let me go to Kentucky for a little bit. We're going to have a young team with a whole bunch of, you know, top recruits. We're going to get bounced in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight, and then I'm going to the NBA. So that's kind of the trend that I see more so on the men's side. I think, you know, getting these top recruits on the women's side definitely is more translatable to a championship. And also, too, because women have to stay longer. You're gonna, you know, we don't get to be one and done. So, yeah, if I'm going to be in school for 4 years as opposed to 1 or 2, Ani, then, yeah, I'm going to have a chance to actually do something. But, you know, how many top recruiting classes have we seen from Calipari that the guys are just in and out and, you know, on to the next big recruiting class, and it doesn't mean a championship at all?
Right. I mean, you see a lot of those. And when you look at guys that look to be one and dones, their focus is different, right? Like, if I know I'm only going to be here for 6 to 8 months, my focus is different as far as winning. Like, in the beginning, you see them all hyped and whatever. You know, all it takes is a January, you know, lose 2-3 games in conference where you're like, all right, I'm looking at the NBA draft. You know? And let me be real. It's not even the guys that are projected one and dones think that way. There are guys that aren't projected one and dones that think that way too.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And then you got the transfer portal now with the men's, which is nuts. I mean, I'm dealing with this right now on my phone. Like, you know, it doesn't translate because obviously the guys are older, like, you know, with their coach year and everything like that. I mean, there are guys that are 25, 26 years old in college basketball. I think one guy in Memphis is 28 or something like that, something crazy like that.
Yeah, there's one guy that's 8 years older than one of the other guys on it.
Yeah, like how is a 19-year-old supposed to compete with that? But then you got the portal because now those guys are like, oh, I don't like it, I'm out. You know, and for whatever reason, if this validated or not, I mean, it's just what it is. It's hard because if you're on the women's side, they know they're going to be there for some years, so they're locked in on winning and getting better. When you're in the men's side, where you know you're only going to be there for 6 to 8 months, how locked in are you really?
You're not mentally locked in. Yeah.
And if you have multiple guys like that, and they're all like, let's say 2 or 3 of them are starting, or 4 in your top 8-9 rotation, you have to be so locked in to beat older guys. To beat teams that have average age of 22, 23, 24. If you're 19 and not all the way locked in, you're not beating those guys.
Yeah. To your point, Ani.
So I have one question. Sorry, Ronnie, I don't mean to interrupt, but let me ask you this, Ani. If I'm a top recruit, like, why would I want to go to a top school though? Like, I think that let's use Emoni Bates, for example. You know, not that Memphis had the #1 recruiting class, but, you know, they had a top class at the time when they signed him and he went there. Now you see he's back at home. He's at Eastern Michigan and he's tearing it up and he's still in the show and he gets to shoot all the balls. I don't know if I want to go to Kentucky with 3 other 5-star recruits. And, like, you talk about preparation for the NBA. Do you think that that a player is more prepared when they're in a program where they get all the touches and get to do whatever they want, as opposed to a stacked, you know, 5-star, you know, team of 5-star recruits? I think we kind of see that in the AAU circuit as well, where, you know, these players are going to these, you know, shoe deal teams as opposed to just kind of staying independent and getting their game off. What do you think is best, I guess, if you're a prospect?
I just think it's fit. You know, if you go, like, if I have a really good role in Kentucky or at Duke, and I know I'm able to showcase my abilities, and it's a place with prestige that has developed NBA players, and you're playing in a Power 5 conference like that, you got a chance. Like, you give yourself the best chance to get drafted at your highest. If you're going to Kentucky and you're going to be the 8th guy and get minimal minutes, and you could go to TCU and be a starter, go to TCU. Now, if you go to a mid-major, not saying you don't get drafted, but you don't have a strong enough sample size to getting drafted because you're not playing a lot of high-level games. Like, Emoni did really good against Michigan, right? And, you know, their non-conference schedule, I think, is pretty solid. But you're still going to have questions about Emoni day in and day out against NBA-like size and length just because they have one really good game doesn't mean, oh, he's a lottery pick all of a sudden. You know, still 6'7" with like a 6'8" wingspan as a wing. Like, you know, no offense to him. It just, he's
going to get hot a couple games for sure.
So when you go to the NBA, how many of these guys, I guess we're seeing these rookies do well. I named 7 rookies, right?
Yeah.
Other than Paolo and really maybe Mathurin, maybe out of 2 or 3 of them are like their first, second, or third guys. Everyone else are role players or the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th option on their team. Maybe not even offense option at all. So if I'm at a mid-major putting up numbers, yes, it does give me a chance to get looked at. But the reality, that doesn't translate to your role in the NBA. 99% of guys that are getting drafted are going to be role players. Mm-hmm. And so if you're just someone that can only play on the ball, how are you going to help me as an NBA team when I need you just to be a spot-up guy or just a 3-and-D guy or, you know, maybe a guy that can come in and be hot for like 10 minutes and then get some buckets and get in? Like, you know, you got to be able to show more. But I just think it's all about fit.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I don't have much to add there on the Emoni Bates, other than I hope he does well overall. You know, again, I think he's going to have a few games where he's going to look really good and shoot it well. You got to watch it full, see what is, you know, how he is off the ball, as you mentioned, Ani. What is he? Is he concentrating, or is he front running when he's hot? Is he locked in, or is he locked in even when he's shooting bad? You know, that kind of thing. And maybe he is going to, like you said, Chelsea, rehabilitate his whole game and image and do well. We hope he does for his sake. And he's going to have a chance. He's going to be intriguing. He's going to be a guy we're going to talk about in next year's draft show, probably. Like, where's he going to go? How's he going to work? I mean, obviously, he still has a lot of games left, and that we'll be following it here on the In the Paint show. So we welcome you. Glad you guys stick with us. Thank you for also watching our previous episodes. We're on episode 144. Obviously, 143 was the special with the Fab 50. And to close it out, we're going to talk about high school, and then we'll get out of here. Chelsea JuJu Watkins is going to USC. Again, USC's had huge recruits here and there. Now, obviously, you know, they haven't really been in the limelight. You know, USC and UCLA have good players here and there. We talked about Rebecca Gardner. She went to UCLA, and they've had some good girls. And then USC's had some really talented classes. But is she the game changer? Is she the Cheryl Miller? Or is she going to be like the Lisa Leslie, where she's going to have the individual accolades, but they're not going to rise to that level?
Well, don't ever say Cheryl Miller, because no one don't ever say that. Don't ever say Cheryl Miller and anybody else.
Yeah.
Like it's truly levels.
Yeah.
And JuJu is incredible. She
Yeah.
is 100% a game changer.
Sure.
I'm happy that she chose USC because my former coach, Beth Burns, is the first assistant there now.
Yeah.
She was my coach at San Diego State. Now she was with Louisville the last couple of years, and now she's back in Cali at USC. So I think it's a great get. JuJu Watkins is going to tear up USC. She's going to be excellent for them. And I like that, you know, everybody thought she was going to South Carolina, myself included. You know, I said that at the beginning of the show, but, you know, I'm glad she decided to kind of carve her own path, and she's definitely going to make some noise in that program. And she will rack up a whole bunch of accolades. She's that caliber of player.
Sure.
Rookie of the year, I'm sure. You know, she's going to have a chance at league MVP because she's just that good. But don't ever say Cheryl Miller. And good luck.
I know she's not as good as Cheryl. I just thought maybe the team might win. But again, to your point, they had other pieces. They had the McGee sisters. They had Cynthia Cooper. So it's like, but sure, Cheryl.
I think she's the next best thing. I'm fine with saying that. I'm fine with saying that.
I just think, Cheryl just came at the right time. But they were expected to win the title her freshman year, and they did win the title. So I don't think, like you said, there's levels to it, and we'll see what they bring in out with her and how much she elevates the program. But let's go back to jump to the guy side and elevating the programs. Ani, you know, DJ or any of these top guys, are they elevating, you know, the program to new heights? Does Kentucky have a chance? And then second question would be, who's your favorite recruiting class of all time? Like, just a favorite. It doesn't have to be the best because that could be debatable. Who's your favorite?
Well, to answer that question, I'm not like the 23 class still has some questions to answer. So
We
no.
talked about that. Yeah, it's not gonna make a big difference.
No, they're not. I mean, there'll be quality guys, but there'll be some quality guys. Some guys are going to come out, but no, I don't think so. I just think, there'll be good players, but nothing, new heights or anything like that. Nothing, like anything like that. I would say my favorite recruiting class is that Texas, the 06 Texas team. Sure. That was really where I started watching a lot more college basketball. I know I was probably like 13 or 14 years old. KD, Damian James, Dexter Pittman, DJ Augustine. Pittman I love Pittman because he came in so well, he was fat, he came in so bad, and like he lost weight and really got better. KD, I loved KD in college. Like I hated that he could not beat Kansas when he was at Texas. Yeah. But he was great. James was great. DJ Augustine was one of my favorite guards to watch in college basketball. I just loved watching that Texas group. And
together.
Just even though they lost to USC in the first round, I believe, but that was just a fun team to watch because you just like when I saw Kevin, like when I know the 07 draft, it was like Odin or Durant. I was like, is Durant like I've seen what he's doing against these teams? Like, it was fantastic. So that 06 Texas recruiting class, that was my favorite.
Yeah. Damian James was one of my favorites in that class. I got a chance to talk to him a bit at the round ball. He didn't make the McDonald's. I thought he should have been in. He didn't. He was good. I'll never forget his high school. Obviously, not how do you say it, Ani? Not Nacogdoches, Texas.
That's about an hour from me. That's about an hour from my home.
It's about an hour from you. Yeah, he was awesome. He was good, and it goes back to your thing is you can see Kevin was going to be a great player. Physically, he wasn't there.
Right.
Like you could see he was going to be really great down the line, and that goes back to what we're talking about a Paolo or the other guys that are physically dominating. How about you, Chelsea? Do you, as you look back watching college basketball or following it, is there like a class that's just your favorite, or maybe they won it, or maybe they came up short, but one that sticks out to you?
I'm going to go 09 Kentucky Wildcats. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I didn't really start getting into college basketball until I started getting recruited.
Sure.
And, that was as a sophomore. I'm class of 2008. So, I started, getting letters and stuff like that. 2006, whatever. So that's when I really started tuning in. So I am familiar with, the Texas team that Ani is talking about. And I think that's a great choice. But for me, I'm going to go with the 09 Wildcats. They had John Wall, #1 pick, DeMarcus Cousins at 3, Daniel Orton at 15, Eric Bledsoe at 23, John Hood at 40, and Darnell Dodson was a JUCO commit there. And I was a huge John Wall fan, basically coming out of high school. Just his style of play. At the time, hoop mixtapes were really big back then, and John Wall has probably a top 5, top 3 hoop mixtape ever. So I definitely followed kind of his collegiate career, and he was exceptional in Kentucky. So even though they didn't win, I still really liked that group. And also too, like I'm a big fan of DeMarcus. I'm really hoping that he finds his way back into the league, even though I think it's, kind of a slim chance. He actually lives in Las Vegas, so I see him every summer, and we train with the same trainer, and Sid, who is the coach of 16U Vegas Elite.
Sure.
So I see him pretty often, and he's a good dude, and he's working hard. And I recently saw like a little brief interview that he did, and just said kind of his reputation kind of precedes him, and he feels like that's why he isn't able to stay on a roster. But there was a time where he was very generational, in the NBA, and we saw those days with him in SAC, and he was incredible when he played with Anthony Davis and the Pelicans side by side. So a little biased in terms of just kind of him because I know him.
Sure.
But that 09 class, Kentucky class, was it for me.
Yeah, the funny thing I take about from that class is obviously you remember John Wall's first game, the Midnight Madness, his dancing and coming down from the rafters, and you won't forget that because there's a lot of hype around him. And then from the media side, Cousins tells guys in the media, he goes by media row in the recruiting, he goes, really, guys, really, Derek Favors, really, Derek Favors. He'll just look at all the guys in the media, all the guys are like, yeah, Derek Favors. you know, he's like, that's because he was the number one player in terms of rankings, and Derek was like the McDonald's MVP, and it was those two guys. And Derek did have a good run at the end of that season. He did really good the McDonald's game in Miami. But yeah, DeMarcus would always be like, really, guys, Derek Favors, you know, so that was just kind of a joke he'd had running in terms of like, you know, people remember that stuff. We talked about it with Bradley Bill. People remember where they're ranked and how people perceive them, and they won't forget. It's a good motivation thing. And I think for me, as we close out, you know, obviously it's easy to go to the Fab Five, but I like some Indiana team that was a little older. I just think it was back to the 4-year thing with Bobby Knight, and they had those players for a little bit longer. And he had a couple classes that didn't work out, but when he did, they really did well. They were a great group that won the 76 team. Last team to be undefeated. So it was Quinn Buckner, Scott May, Tom Abernathy, Jim Cruz. They probably would have won in 75 too, but one of them got injured in the Elite Eight and they lost it. But they came back and went undefeated. Yeah, there's always some classes that are great, but yeah, it's mostly for the fans. It's mostly the talk. It's talking point to get a subscription online, and this is it. I think it offers the fans hope, but at the end of the day, yeah, there's so many factors that go into winning the NCAA title, whether it be age, injury, now transfer portal. You got to hit the portal. I went to a Cal State Fullerton game the other day. I just happened to go. I mean, the roster is it's just older. They're all from other colleges almost. They were playing the University of Vermont. Vermont's best player was a D2 player who moved up through the portal, and he's pretty good in that conference. So, like, yeah, it's another college basketball is another world from what it was back then. And I just think all those great classes that Kentucky and Duke had. I think you mentioned it, Chelsea. It's maybe worked out once or twice. The one time it worked out with Kentucky was with the Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. We've talked about that with him and Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis was generational. And then the other class you mentioned, Chelsea, you kind of like was Tyus Jones, Justin Lowe, and Jaleel Okafor. They won it. So, you know, 2 out of what, 15? 2 out of 15. So it's good. It's good information. It's good stuff to talk about, but it's nothing that we really have to like go overboard or crazy about. So we hope DJ Wagner does good at Kentucky. We hope JuJu Watkins does good at SC, and we appreciate you guys sticking with us. But I think for now, we're going to get ready to get out of here on episode 144. We appreciate you guys tuning in, listening in, and sharing with others. But for Chelsea and Ani, we're out of here. Good afternoon, and thanks for listening in.